I like the point that you made about encompassing your whole business, and that, businesses aren't just your logo and color palette. Hey, it's Emily with Wildleaf Collab. These expert interviews are just real people, real conversations with expert advice. So sit back, grab your notebook, a cup of coffee, and listen to what they have to say. And don't forget to click subscribe so that you can stay tuned every time we have a new expert on the show. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this very special episode of the Wildleaf Show. Today, I am joined by the very talented branding and web designer, Megan Powell, owner of Little Dot Creative. So, hey.
Hi.
So we're going to talk today about this whole kind of interview series that I'm doing is with fellow industry experts and leaders who are talking about advice that they wish they'd known when they started. And Megan has specifically reached out about marketing and branding, which you guys know I'm a graphic designer, so I totally crush on this. But I feel like sometimes it's good to hear it from somebody else too. So, and I love her perspective on it as well. So she's going to talk about when she started her journey and tips for you guys on marketing and branding. I like the point that you made about encompassing your whole business, and that, businesses aren't just your logo and color palette. So we'll get more into that. But first, kind of tell us a little bit about you and kind of your journey starting your business, and then we'll kind of dive into the topic.
Yeah, for sure. So like you said, I own Little Dot Creative, which is a branding and website studio. And I've been in business for about 3 to 4 years now. It's always kind of iffy because I think as entrepreneurs, you kind of always have businesses going and you're never really sure how long you're official.
So true.
But anyways, so yeah, about 3 to 4 years in business. A few years ago, I also started a wedding photography and brand photography studio with my little sister.
Oh, nice.
And after kind of having my branding studio, we really put to test how important having branding and looking professional and looking like you've got it all together was, even if on the back end, you're kind of like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just figuring everything out. But the customer thinks that I'm like professional and know what I'm doing. And that's all that matters. So.
Isn't that so true? Like, as long as on the surface you look like you got it together, you can figure it out on the back end.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, we did that for 2 years and then just recently shut down that business. And I'm just focusing on the branding and website design. But like you were saying, I believe that branding encompasses your whole business. It is not just your logo and your color palette and your patterns or things like that, but it touches on almost every aspect, which we'll get into today talking about. But it is one of the most important pieces of your puzzle in your business and one of the most impactful ways you can make an impact on your clients and customers and your business as well. So
love it.
Yeah.
Well, you're preaching to the choir there, definitely.
Yes.
So when you and I connected, you had specifically mentioned in our correspondence a few things that I really liked, that new business owners really need to take into consideration how we talk about ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so this is kind of like several different things, which we'll talk on, but like how we talk about ourselves, who we choose to serve, which I think is a big thing, that we're so afraid of turning down money that we kind of were just like, everybody, I serve everybody. Mm-hmm. And why kind of niching down and being more focused is super important. And then also that plays along with like what we choose to offer as well. And that's what makes us different and helps us have a really great client experience. So when you started out, what are some things you noticed that led you to realize that this is the way you should do it? Like what were some things that happened in your business, or maybe not yours, but other people's, that you've noticed where you're like, you know what, if you had been really nailed down on that, we probably could have avoided that?
Yeah, it was actually my business. So just over a year ago, I was feeling burnt out. I was looking at all of these other brand designers and was kind of like, I'm stuck in this saturated market and I don't know what makes me different. Like I do the same thing that this other person's doing and I don't even know who I serve. Like I was preaching to my clients at that point, you have to know your ideal client. But on the other side, I was kind of like, I don't really know who mine is. So it was at that point that it was at that point that I actually decided to hire that out. So I hired another brand strategist to kind of get that inside look into my business, because as business owners, we can sometimes be way too close to everything to see things clearly. And you kind of need somebody to pull those things out or ask the right questions or see the connections that you just can't see yourself.
Yes. Love that. Praise
So,
hands. Yes.
Yeah. So I hired a brand strategist, and
Good
she
job.
actually walked through a process of exactly what I was talking, or what you were saying, of defining what exactly you do, who exactly you do it for, and what makes you different than everybody else. And it was after working with her that I was kind of like, the clouds had parted, this light was shining down, and it finally felt like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. I was excited about my business again, and I knew the exact steps to move forward with growing my business instead of just kind of fumbling along and kind of waiting for things to happen or just doing it business as usual, but no growth or change was happening.
Yes. I think that's such a great analogy that you make, like the clouds part. And I think, and from my own personal experience too, when I started, I was like, everybody, I'm going to photograph everything and I'm going to design everything. And nobody knew what I specialized in, and I didn't know what I specialized in. I didn't know what made me happy. But once I finally, and I had hired myself a brand strategist as well. So here's point proven, right? Like 2 graphic designers who make brands for others hired somebody. We both hired somebody to help us. We all need, coaches need coaches.
We all need help. Yeah.
But when they finally told me, just focus on one thing for right now. Make that awesome, focus on the one thing. Then all of a sudden my business felt easier again. And I was excited about it, like you said. And I think we worry, and I know for me personally, I worried that if I cut it down and laser focused like that I would be missing out. But really it offered me a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I think is a huge misconception, especially when finding that target market or that niche for yourself. It's hard to really narrow down and focus on the things that really make you happy, because I think most often new entrepreneurs or new business owners are kind of scared of leaving everybody else out.
Yes.
And they're like, well, I could be making money from all these other things too, but in reality, that's not going to get you anywhere in the long run.
Totally true. Yep. Absolutely. Love that. Yeah. Totally agree with that. So you had also mentioned, so we can't talk about, why you should really who you're choosing to serve, what you choose to offer. You also mentioned client experience. Mm-hmm. So what about that really speaks to you?
So that's something that I've learned after working with so many clients and kind of honing in on my own client experience as well. I think client experience, especially as a service-based business, is a huge part of your branding puzzle, because if you provide a client with terrible service or a terrible experience, you're not going to get any referrals from them. You're not going to get any continuing work from them. And that door is just kind of shut and gone. Yep. Whereas if it's the complete opposite, where you are going above and beyond, you are surprising them, you are giving them things they didn't expect, and just providing a really great experience for them, they are more likely to go and preach you to all of their friends, all of their fellow business owners, anyone who could benefit from your service. They are more likely to refer that on.
Love that. So what are some examples that you do that make your client experience unique to you? Because I know people now are probably like, what can I do? So what do you do that is unique that you gift them or go above and beyond?
Yeah, I think it definitely starts with knowing who your clients are, first of all. So again, being able to identify and pinpoint your exact target market or who you actually want to serve. And then coming up with their pain points. So I know that throughout my branding process, there are specific areas that can cause a little bit of tension or a little bit more homework for them, especially at the beginning of the project. We always start with homework. Right. And so it can feel a little bit overwhelming to them. I know that because I've been on the other side. Yeah. So I like to send them just a Starbucks card once they sign on and say, here, have a coffee on me and go and sit down and do your homework.
Love that. That's such a great idea.
Yeah, just something simple.
Yes, and I think that's where we kind of get overwhelmed, because as soon as you search on Pinterest for client gifts, it's just this costs so much money. There's so many different things, but truly something as simple as a coffee shop gift card. Yeah, that's such a great little touch. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. Awesome. And then moving into non-monetary gifts too is if you know who your client is and you know your process, then recognize what some common questions are or some common pitfalls, or for the wedding photography side of this, brides are likely planning their very first wedding. This is the first time they're getting married. They've never done this before, and they have no idea what they're doing. So you as the wedding photographer, and I know this is very common with wedding photographers, but you send out an info package or like a wedding guide of here's how you create your timeline so you can get all the photos you want, or this is what you can do for here. And just, you're the expert in your industry and in your niche and in the service that you're providing. And so be that expert, own that expertise, and educate your clients on that. So
love that.
That's a free way as well, just by providing them with resources and tools.
Right. So I know we talk about, like it's more than just your brand and your logo and your color palette. Like brand is all of that. It's not just logo and color palette. But you and I are talking a little bit beforehand, like that's where we get excited. That's what makes us so excited when we start our business, is picking that logo, because then it feels legit. So do you have any tips for starting out? And I have a lot of my own design clients as well as wildlife clients who have come to me and said, well, I just bought a logo on Etsy for $16. And there's no hate in that, because I'm also on Etsy with my wedding stationery. So like Etsy people, don't get mad. Like I totally respect that. But if you want custom, or maybe you haven't even considered custom, why do us graphic designers so highly recommend like having something custom made? Like why is that important to telling the story too?
I think it's so important because, again, getting that outside perspective into your business. As brand designers, we've both hired out other people to help us with our brand.
Yep.
So getting that other viewpoint or other side, or being able to see it through a new lens, I think is worth its money in gold. And secondly, especially my process, we start with foundational building. So again, as a client, we would work through determining who your ideal client is, figuring out what exactly you do, and putting it in a really clear-cut sentence that makes sense and you can actually use when talking about your business.
Yes.
Figuring out why you started this business, and how you're different than all your competitors, because again, we work in very saturated markets, and if you don't know what makes you different, then how are your clients going to know that as well? So
yes,
I think by working with a professional, you can kind of build those foundation pieces before even starting the actual design work. And then once the design work starts, it is built on that strategy, and it is custom for you and you only, and will live for your business for the hopefully next 5 to 10 years, and not just be something that you're constantly changing because trends are changing or styles are changing.
Yes, so that is such a key point too, I think, is it's very easy to get overwhelmed in what's trendy and what's right now, but is that you? Is that you? Is that your business? You don't want to have to rebrand every 2 years. One, because it's expensive, whether you're just DIYing it or you're going through someone professional, but also because it's confusing to your clients. If you're coming out with a new logo every couple of years just because it doesn't make you happy, then really think about, and this is where I always encourage clients, like really think about something that speaks to you and speaks to what you do as well when you pick a logo. Because a logo is not just like your name and some watercolor flowers or something, like, and maybe that's like, somehow that's like exactly what you need, and that's awesome. But most of the time, that's not exactly what you need.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And the other piece of that too, I think, is like knowing what your goals are. Where do you want your business to be in the next 5 to 10 years? Because your brand and your logo should help get you there. It shouldn't be something that's only going to work for the next 2 years, like you were saying, but should be aligned with those goals so that you don't have to rebrand when you do make those big goals or make those next steps in your business.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So along those lines, is there anything else that you can think of, especially with like, I guess, branding and marketing? Like those are big terms. And in my e-course, I kind of, decipher like the two, like branding is how you look, marketing is what you do. Is there anything else that because I feel like we've hit on a couple really big things already.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you like really want people to know about marketing and branding, especially as they're starting out?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I want people to know, especially as you're starting out, is branding is usually describing your logo, your color palette, and your pattern. But if you can see beyond that and know that it encompasses everything else in your business too, including your client experience, the services you choose to offer, how you talk about yourself to people, plus all of your visual elements, then you'll be set up for success. And being able to define each of those areas that I just said will also help round out your brand and create a brand that's built for your business and kind of create that foundation for your business.
Yes, absolutely. And it helps be cohesive too. I think that's another thing that I see, and I did this myself as a new business owner. Like, yeah, I had a logo, but then all my branding and my website, it was all kind of just different. And like, whatever the theme was that looked good, that was the cheapest that I could afford, that's what I went with for my website. And social media, like just randomly throwing pictures up there. Like, there's definitely, you do not have to have a lot of money to do it correctly. But I think the key, and I think what you're saying too, is like, think about big picture. Think about long term as you're doing this. Is this something that you can and want to sustain for a long time?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, exactly what you said. And especially as a new business owner, like you have to decide where that money is going to go when you first start out. And so if that Etsy logo is the only thing you can afford right now, then start with the Etsy logo, but work on those other pieces that don't require any money. They just require the time and energy to kind of lay them out from you, and then work with the professional once you can afford it. So yeah.
Totally. So you also are websites, which I know you didn't want to super focus on, but like, I love talking about websites too, because I think they're really intimidating. Like, brand is kind of like a fun, again, people think about like logo and yay, it's fun, but then websites get overwhelming super fast. So any quick tips about websites, like what to look for, or even just what are basic needs for a website to just help a new business owner get up and running?
Yeah, I think starting is the first tip.
Yes, that's true. A lot of us suffer from like analysis paralysis, and we're like,
yes,
forget it, I'm not going to do it.
Yes, because that was me when I first started my business. It was like, do I go with WordPress? What theme do I choose? Do I go with Squarespace? I've never done it before. How do I learn it? And it's just, you just need to make a decision and move forward with it. You can change anything at any time, but do not put things off because you're trying to find the best option. So just start your website to begin with.
Yes, right? So let's say we pick a website and a theme. What are some good important features? Like, should there be specific content on your homepage? Like, I think, now that I'm saying this out loud, like, about me and your homepage are your branding too. And that is such a great opportunity to tell your story. So what are some things that people should really think about when telling their story on their website?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is put a picture of yourself on your website. I can't tell you how many websites I come across and there isn't a single face on there.
Yes.
And I usually don't inquire with them or don't even look further, because as a human, I want to know that there's another human on the end of this business, and I want to see your face and know that I can trust you.
You're totally right. And I will admit that I did not, on my first website, I did not have a picture of myself. And one of my clients actually said to me, hey, can I just suggest putting in a photo on there? And that's like almost mortifying as a graphic designer, but then also hearing from your client that you should have an about photo, like you're kind of like, oh, okay, I'll go do that real quick. Yeah. So good point. Yes, absolutely. About me photo. Definitely.
Yes. And then the second piece is just make it as simple as possible. Like, don't overcomplicate things. Have really clearly state out what exactly it is that you do or what you're offering people, especially on your homepage, because if somebody lands on your site, you've literally got like 2 seconds to grab their attention or they click off. And so make sure it's worth their while and they understand what you're doing. And second of all, put your story on. Why did you start this business? What exactly are you hoping to achieve with the business? Or why are you hoping to help people with the services or the products that you've got? And put that on your about page, because that's a really great connector piece for people who could be hiring you, who see themselves in your business as well. So
love that. Perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Yeah, definitely. Like, what made you want to start it and why do you do this? I think I was looking at stalking your webpage a little bit, and I think your about page is awesome because it's got just enough info on it to like make me excited to talk with you, but not so much info that I'm like, I don't even know who this person is.
Yeah, that you just skim over it and you don't really,
Yes. You do a great job. So if anybody's looking for about page inspiration, check hers out.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure
to copy it. Like, take each section and write your own in those words. Don't copy my copy. But
right, yeah.
take each section and go, oh, she's talking about herself here, or she's talking about her why here, her values or whatever, and just write your own version of those things too.
Yes, it's a great example of how much to include and like kind of what to say. But yeah, definitely don't copy it word for word because Google knows and Google does not appreciate it. Yes. So I think that's a lot of really great, like beginner content, really good stuff to think about. So thank you for that. Do you have anything like one last final thought? You're like, ooh, we should talk about this too. Or you feel like we're good?
The only final thought with websites is again, making it very clear and concise. So coming up with like buttons that don't really make sense. Like if it's leading to your contact page, just put contact as your headline or as your link. Don't try and make it fancy. Just make it easy for people to contact you and to follow you or to get to where they're actually trying to get on your website.
Perfect. That's true. Because I have seen buttons before. I'm like, what do they mean? What does that mean?
Yeah. Where is this leading me? I don't know.
Yes. Never mind.
Yeah.
Very good point. Very good point. So you also, so tell people first off where they can find you, like your Instagram or your website.
So little.creative.com is my website and Instagram is at little.creative. I spend most of my time on Instagram though.
Good to know.
Hang out with me over there.
Good to know. And then also you provided a freebie. You're sending us a link to, it's the Establish Yourself as a Professional in 5 Easy Steps. And I love that. I think that that is awesome. So we'll be sure to include that link in the description below. So check that out. Great content. And thank you so much for today. I feel like we covered some really, really key, simple things. So thank you for that.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. All right. Well, until next time, Wild, we'll see ya.